Oh, of course it stopped working. Hello. Good morning, MAGFest. Thank you. Yes, thank you, gamers, for getting out of your drunken stupor just to hang out with us for a little bit today. It's 11 and your massive hangover. Hi, I'm Laughingboy, also known as Andrew, if you want to know my real name. I am very unprepared, even though I've been very prepared for this very moment. Welcome to another edition, fantastic edition of DialogBOX, live at MAGFest. Can I get a round of applause? It's finally happening. It's been quite a while, and things are still terrible. I'm your host. If you don't know what DialogBOX is, it's a podcast where we talk about video games. I decided not to do a stupid intro like I usually do this time, but welcome, and I'm glad you're here. I am here with four very lovely guests. Over to my left, your right, if you're watching this on twitch.tv/MAGFest Panels 2. We've got Shinjanaytor. Hello.
Hi. It's good to be here. Can you guys hear me?
People can clap now. We've also got to her left and your double right, Yoshiller.
Hello, humans. I'm Yoshiller. I'm glad to be the furthest left because I'm left-handed, so that way I don't have to worry about bumping elbows.
Oh, that's the best. And over to my right and your left, we've got AceFangirl. And to your double right and my double left, no.
Honestly, I was so impressed you were keeping that up for as long as you did.
Thank you. We've got NintendoCapriSun. Hello. Keeping it up is what I do. So it's been quite some time since the last MAGFest. Does anybody even remember 2020? That was like 5 years ago, right?
No.
We try not to remember it.
2032. So we're going to talk a little bit about what we've been up to. It's been quite some time, as I've said like 3 times before, and things have happened, right? Good things, bad things, sort of okay things, very mundane things. We're going to talk, we're going to share, we're going to open up a little bit, we're going to learn something about ourselves, and maybe learn something about the audience. No, I'm just kidding. So first off, does anybody remember MAGFest 2020? Does everybody remember when COPPA was the worst possible thing that was going to happen to us, and nothing could possibly get worse than that?
Because I think we had like a 10-minute conversation about it.
Yes. So in 2020, I did a panel, DialogBOX panel that was actually like a TRG Q&A session. And if you weren't there for that, that's fine. I'm no hurt feelings over here. I totally didn't remember that. So, and at that point, yeah, there was like, I just decided to go all off on COPPA. And even though it was supposed to be, Tim and John and Emil talking, I just went like, excuse me. Just a minute.
Oh, you were pretty badass, though.
The way you gripped that microphone. So what were you guys up to during that time? Like, what were the things that you were worried about going into 2020?
Well, I wasn't here at MAGFest 2020. So my only concern was I was going to Japan at that time, and I wanted to make sure that things worked out.
I'm so sorry.
That was fine. As a matter of fact, it was a fantastic trip, one of the highlights of my life. And when I was at the airport coming home, that's when they were talking about the COVID outbreak.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, oh, I hope I just make it home. So I did. And I thought nothing of it. And then I was getting ready to change jobs. And my former employer and I came to the agreement that I would have my last day be on April 1st, 2020. And we settled that in January 2020 before the world shut down. And so everything shut down in March. So when April 1st, 2020 rolled around, I just got up and I was like, oh, I guess I don't work for this guy anymore. And then my life just changed. I have more to say, but that's all I was doing at that time. So I didn't really worry about anything except whether or not I would live.
See, I'm so jealous because I was actually supposed to go to Japan, but in summer 2020.
Okay.
So that obviously didn't happen. But MAGFest 2020 was great. It was actually probably one of my favorite MAGFests. I've been going since 2011, since I'm local to Maryland. So I'm kind of a MAGFest veteran, not to toot my own horn. But it was a really good year. And I was rewatching my MAGFest 2020 vlogs, like going into this panel. And it was so weird seeing us all having a great time without masks, like totally oblivious to what was to come in the coming months. And I'm just like, wow, I can't believe this actually happened. But it was a good year. It was the first time like going to MAGFest since I started playing Pokemon Go again. So it was fun to play Pogo here.
Thanks for the reminder.
My item bag is full.
Story of my life.
Story of my life. It's always full.
Do you still play it? Do you need anything from Japan?
Oh my God, yes.
Okay, cool.
Well, they'll be out for the rest of the panel. So, that was the Korean barbecue year. That was such a good time. Oh my God.
I heard about the legendary Korean barbecue.
I think the worst part, well, no, not the worst part. The funniest part about the Korean barbecue place is that, so we have a lot of Korean barbecue around here in Northern Virginia, and the different ones kind of have a different atmosphere. So we had a Korean barbecue place like that's very typical, very normal. You all just sit at a table and you eat. Then there's a place called Iron Age, and it's basically like a nightclub, but you eat Korean barbecue instead of doing anything else. And there were like 12 birthdays that night. And I don't know why everyone decided to have a birthday and go to Iron Age at that same night, but it was constant.
Well, did you go to the place on a Friday night or a Saturday night?
We went on a Friday night.
And that's why.
Yeah.
Everyone was filming
That'll-
at the
yeah.
same time.
I think what was also great is we went and got bubble tea right afterwards. And I'm just like, imagine just what it was me, my fiance, and Emil, Tom, like a bunch of other like Let's Players, and we all walk into this bubble tea place. And I swear, one person, as Emil was coming out of the bathroom, was just like stopping him to take pictures, and Tom just looks at him and was like, "This is why we can't take you anywhere." But yeah, so that was a pretty good year. It had a lot of food, good times, and nothing could ever make that worse.
Oh, I have one more thing to share.
Oh no.
Right before 2020 started, I choked on a chicken nugget and had to go to the emergency room.
So you almost died.
So
yeah.
constantly you were fearing for your life.
Yeah,
This has been
so
your life since 2019.
In December of 2019, I used to go out to lunch with a colleague all the time, and I would let him pick the place, and I would just drive. And so we tried this Mediterranean restaurant, and they have those big chicken nuggets that you normally put on a skewer for like a kebab, but I had it without the skewer. So I wolfed down the whole thing like an idiot and didn't really chew it. And so I started choking, and he had to give me the Heimlich maneuver. And I tried to down it with fruit punch, and that didn't work, so I threw up red fluids all over the place. And then I thought that was the end of it, but it turned out it was actually stuck in my throat for the rest of the time, and I couldn't consume any more food or beverages for the remainder of the day. But I didn't know that. I thought my throat was swollen, and I went to urgent care, and the doctor said the same thing, so I took his word on it like an idiot. And then that
trust the
night,
doctor.
no, the following day, I went to a smash tourney. I didn't do that well, and then I had to go to the emergency room because I wasn't able to eat or drink anything for more than 24 hours, and I was panicking. So I went to the emergency room, and then they performed oral surgery on me so they could take the chicken nugget out of my throat. And then the following day, I went back to the Smash tourney, and they put me in the amateur bracket, and I got their top 32.
I have a very important question. Were you able to keep the dislodged chicken nugget as a souvenir?
No, as a matter of fact, I think they didn't take it out, they pushed it down.
Oh.
Okay.
Jesus, that sounds really gross out of context.
And then I started 2020. And if you want to know what Smash tourney it was Congo Saga. And I was doing a vlog of it, and there was a vlog clip of, well, there was going to be a vlog clip of me in the hospital in case things didn't go well. But things went well, so I never had to use that vlog clip.
You have a CNN death tape, is what you're trying to say?
I do, and I also have a picture because my mom was with me. She took one of the doctor's gloves and turned it into a balloon and drew a smiley face on it. So I have that as well.
Hang in there.
I'm good. Yeah, so that was how I started my 2020.
You must have felt indestructible going into 2020.
I felt like a dog who just had the cone removed off of its throat. So I was very excited. Sorry, I didn't mean to just hog the conversation, but that I realized, yeah, wait, there was more that went on in the start of 2020 than I remember. I almost died. I forgot. Sorry.
So did a lot of people. How about y'all?
Oh, where were we?
The start of 2020.
He just had a chicken nugget out of his throat.
Yeah.
Wow, how do you top that?
I know. I don't really know. I don't think we can beat that.
I got more for the actual year of 2020.
Oh my God. Stop eating food.
I can't get much skinnier, man. It's like a stick.
That's fair.
Well, for me, the whole virus thing didn't really become big news until after PAX.
That was
PAX
exactly
East.
what I was going to say, too.
So, like, it was March or April. for me. I had
So my
at
biggest
MAGFest 2020. I don't think it was even really a thing. 'Cause even at PAX, nobody was wearing masks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't consider it until after PAX. Like that was the first time I heard about it. Also, it was right when I got back from
Yeah,
PAX.
right when you got
and
back.
I wasn't
then it was
feeling
like
well,
everywhere.
and I was like, oh no, this is probably bad, and it was fine. Like it was just regular con crud. But so yeah, I guess my biggest concern for MAGFest 2020 was making it back to campus on time.
Yeah, I think ironically that was like the first MAGFest that I actually got sick afterwards. So I did actually get con crud. And then I think it also like snowed immediately after. Because my thing about MAGFest is like for some reason it happens to snow before every MAGFest for the last 5
That's
years.
so true.
2020 it didn't. And so I was like, oh great, like I won't have to worry about this. And then like the Monday after MAGFest was over, it snowed. So I was like, great. Yeah, I think I remember going to the grocery store right before PAX East because at that point it was starting to become like an actual concern. And, a lot of people were actually like pulling out of PAX East, like people from Square Enix were pulling out. And I remember Sony dipped out. I think Nintendo still showed up to some degree.
Nintendo had a big Animal
Oh yeah,
Crossing
they had
show.
Animal Crossing. Of course they did.
That's right. I was so jealous.
Nintendo was there to play.
They were there to play Animal Crossing specifically.
Yeah, specifically Animal Crossing.
They were actually the ones that caused COVID-19.
There's an actual conspiracy theory
I know.
about that. Okay.
There is.
nuts.
So Miyamoto actually caused COVID-19. You heard it here first. So he could get people to play Animal Crossing, a game he had nothing to do with.
And it worked.
So on top of all that, so we were at the grocery store. We were like, we should get some like, sanitation wipes. We'll get that for the plane. And I think we passed by, I'm pretty sure we passed by like a whole thing of masks, of face masks. And we looked at each other and we were like, that's overkill, right? Like, we don't need to bring those. And so we didn't. And nobody else
Your mouth
did.
while you say that,
Yeah, well, yeah, I can't actually. The irony of the situation. And then, yeah, of course, when we came back, we couldn't buy a mask to save your life. So that was something that just kind of crossed my mind. Yeah, I remember hearing whispers about it essentially before PAX East, but it was very much like a thing that was still overseas, and maybe we had like 1 or 2 cases by the time PAX East happened.
Yeah, can you imagine if it was PAX West, because that's in Seattle, and I think the first confirmed cases of COVID in the U.S. I think was in Seattle or like somewhere in Washington.
Geographically, it would make sense because the West Coast is closer to Asian territories, which is where the outbreak happened. So Seattle would sound correct.
Yeah, so it would have been a much different story if that was like the last PAX before
Oh yeah.
pandemic.
So going into PAX East, how was PAX East for everyone that went?
It was awesome.
Good.
I had a great time.
Yeah.
Until it wasn't.
Until it wasn't. It's weird because I can remember snippets of PAX East, but it's just a blank now.
Well, I remember Nintendo's big old Animal Crossing booth. I got the Isabelle pin.
We had like 15 of those by the end of the weekend.
There was the Stream All-Stars tournament, so I was in that. I roomed with Derek Bitnerd before he had his kid. And then I had Artsy Omni join us, and that was the first time I get to meet him in person. So yeah, I had a fantastic time at PAX East. It was great. I'm like for a final convention before the world shut down, I was very happy that I went to it.
I do remember getting the very last ticket to play the Final Fantasy VII remake demo. That was one thing for me because I remember like there were at least 4 or 5 people behind me, and I took the last one. I was like, and I came back at one. It was a good demo. Man, that game was good. So PAX East, MAGFest, that all came and went, and then pretty much the week after, most of the East Coast was shutting down. Does anybody remember what it was like right when you had to shut down and self-quarantine? What were the things that you were thinking about? How did you all pass the time? Did you learn any new skills? Did anybody learn how to bake bread?
I've been learning Japanese.
There you go.
That's cool. So for me, I was living with my mom at the time when like the pandemic and quarantine was happening. My mom works at a hospital. So she's a bit of a hypochondriac. So she was already freaking out about COVID before like the rest of the world was. She was telling me to like hand sanitize, wear a mask, all that stuff. Her hospital, like her boss, like her boss's boss's boss was actually telling her like, you can't wear a mask. You're freaking the patients out. So she actually had to stop wearing a mask at the hospital. And then like weeks later, when things started getting more legit, the boss came back and was like, Cindy, you were right. I apologize. I was like, dang, good for them for owning up to it. But like, I remember going into it, I thought everyone was freaking out, kind of like you with the mask. Like, oh, that's probably overkill. I was like, it's going to be like swine flu. It's not going to be a big deal. Like, we're going to get over it in a couple weeks. And then the actual quarantine started happening. I was like, okay, this will be like 2 weeks max. And then it started pushing to like a month. And I was like, wow, this is longer than I was expecting. And
it's doing numbers.
here we are, 2 years later.
Well, I remember, I live on the West Coast. Let's preface it with that. I live in southern Los Angeles. And I remember we started to hear news about big events shutting down. So we got the news that E3 was canceled and that EVO was canceled. And a lot of things were getting canceled. And then it started to really sink in how serious this all was. And I remember specifically, I have the Blaze Pizza app. And on March 14th, it's Pi Day, so you can get a pizza for $3.14, and that was canceled. And that's what
no.
made
Game
it
over.
seem like we were in trouble.
Backing up.
But as soon as we had to quarantine, we adjusted pretty quickly. My roommates and I, we were just like, okay, I guess tomorrow we're not going to the office. We're just going to hang out at the house. And so we bought things in bulk. We constantly bought the 64-pack of Eggo waffles, so we didn't have to go out and keep buying them regularly. And I like to eat Honey O's cereal. So we got like 50, we got like 40 boxes of those. And frozen chicken nuggets. We got a lot of those.
You still were able to eat chicken nuggets after your incident?
Oh, I need to talk to you after this. That's like all I eat. So yeah, we adjusted pretty well. We were pretty good about staying home. We lived near a Target, so if we needed to grab groceries, usually one of us would go and wait in line, because in Los Angeles, where things are overpopulated, if you needed to go grocery shopping, you had to wait in like a 30, 40-minute line. And sometimes, if I wanted to make a little extra cash, people would pay for my spot in line. And I'd say, okay. And I'd go back to the back of the line, and they'd give me like $40. So that covered my groceries for the month, basically. So
And
I adjusted fine. I'm just saying.
You made bank. Yeah.
I think mine is a little unique because I was still in school at the time. I was in my second year of law school. So we got the news. It was our spring break. It was the week after our spring break. So they were just like, yeah, don't come back to campus. We were like, okay, I guess I'll just hang out here. And we immediately started doing classes online because thankfully they had that system already set up because we had really bad fires the year before and we're all sent home again. So we were like, all right, I guess we're just gonna do this for like 2 weeks or whatever, and then we'll go back and it'll be fine. And we won't have to worry about it. And then that 2 weeks turned into like 2 months. And then we ended up taking all of our finals online. And then the next year they were like, yeah, first semester is going to be online. And then that turned into second semester is going to be online. So I spent half of my law school experience on my computer, which was great. Still graduated though, so that's fine. Graduated during the pandemic. We did get to walk. I was luckily in the class that they had all the guidelines in place, so we got to wear our stupid capes and stupid hats and walk across the stage. It's not normal graduation caps when it's a doctorate. It's like the weird little puffy hat.
Ooh.
I probably have a picture somewhere, but it's horrible.
That's on your Twitter.
It is on my Twitter. You're right. I did make that public. It's a horrible picture of me.
So you're saying I could have used that picture for this
Use that picture.
instead of the one that I wound up using
2018.
that apparently you hate.
I do hate that picture.
Whatever.
It doesn't look like me. But
It
yeah,
looks enough like you.
it does look enough.
I saw that picture. I was like, hey, that's her.
That's right.
So yeah, it was an adjustment period because we were not used to doing online school, especially for law school. And none of our professors were used to doing online school for law school. So they tried to run it the same way as a normal classroom, and everyone would just turn their internet off when we tried to get cold called and just pretend like we dropped out of the classroom.
Oh my God.
They caught on to that though, so we had to stop doing it. But it was all right, and I got to use multitasking and totally play video games during class. So don't come to me for legal advice is what I'm saying.
Look, you have it on a piece of paper that says I can do
I
it.
do, yeah. I have
So-
a huge diploma
Really, that's
sitting in my room.
all that matters half the time. Yeah, I think we were in an apartment, and I had actually been working from home since late 2019. I went from working in DC like 3 times a week to in November I started working for another client, and they were completely remote, except I would have to like go to DC like once a month, and that was the worst. But then after that, I was working from home the entire time. So when everyone was like, "Oh, we have to start working remotely now," I was like, "Great! I'm already set up." And then I wound up paying a lot more money for like an entire home office, but that's later on in the panel. So I think the worst part was just looking for toilet paper.
We were lucky on that front.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of Costco's and they're pretty easy to get to, but I remember we went to one Costco at the very start, and I have never seen such long lines for just paying. I've never seen it. It was basically like, imagine a warehouse that's maybe, a quarter or half the size of this convention center, and people are lined up from the registers in the front all the way to the back, like going in loops. It was just crazy. And obviously at that point, a lot more people were actually following the safe distance rules.
Right.
So I think that contributed to a lot of it. But I remember walking into that store and being like, no. And I just walked right back out. I was like, there's no way. I hate being in Costco when there's not a pandemic. So I do not want to be in a Costco during a pandemic. It makes me so anxious. But that was like the worst of it. And I think once people stopped panic buying paper towels and toilet paper, we were pretty much set. I could poop again.
Gotta poop. That's very important.
It's very important.
Pooping is important.
Yeah. Now, if there's one thing you learn from this panel, you should poop.
When you gotta go, you gotta go.
Yeah, Jurassic Park, 1994. So, any new skills like Yoku Hanaseru?
I'm not that fluent.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I started picking up Japanese just to do something. I did a lot of video editing from home, and because so prior to the world shutting down, I was editing for The Completionist, and we left on good terms. But then, yeah, April 1st rolled around, and I realized I wasn't going to edit for him anymore, and I thought I was going to like travel the world and go to a bunch of conventions and really try to pursue new opportunities, and that didn't happen. So I pivoted to trying to become the Chris Pratt of video editors and just trying to edit for everybody. So I edited for like Commonwealth Realm, Source Gaming, Arlo, Reversal, everybody. Wolf Click. I was like, I just want to do videos for everybody. And it got so bad that I wasn't sleeping that much, so I had to buy a Fitbit so I could make sure I was getting 8 hours of sleep a day. And then I did all that while also playing Animal Crossing every day. And I learned to better manage my time and get a bunch of projects done. But otherwise, the only new skill I guess I might have picked up is learning or practicing Japanese and probably like rerouting my internet connection so I could have a wired connection. So that was probably about it.
It sounds like you had a very productive quarantine. I was like the most basic pandemic person. I got addicted to Animal Crossing. I bought a puppy with my stimmy money.
Hey.
I got even deeper into my Pokemon card collecting. I know I have Pokemon card collectors in the audience. I'm sure you all know what that struggle was like. I started a movie club Discord server and then an Among Us Discord server. I was deeply addicted to Among Us for a little while. I was just like the most basic quarantine person imaginable. And I picked up no new skills, basically. Nothing productive.
You learned how to make a Discord.
There's that, yeah. Can I add that to my resume, though?
Yeah. Social media manager. I mean, yeah, I forgot the number. I think I spent over 600 hours on my Switch in 2020. And I know that that's technically a low number for some people. And then I remember in 2021, they were like, you spent maybe 100 hours.
Yeah.
It was a very different. Well, I got a PS5.
Must be nice.
It was. So after a false start of getting back to normal in the summer, we kind of started going back inside in the winter in 2020 just to wait for this vaccine. Did we all hope that we'd be coming back to conventions in 2021?
Yes.
How did y'all feel about the vaccine? And when did you feel like things would start to be safe again?
Oh, you want me to answer first?
Anybody.
Okay. I feel bad. I feel like I'm talking too much.
Yeah.
You want to start on that side?
Yeah, we'll do the opposite. To be honest, I was kind of happy to take a break from the conventions at first, but I thought for sure by the middle of 21 we'd be back to doing them again, but it's not how it turned out. We're just kind of barely making this one, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scary.
But yeah,
I mean,
vaccine though, that's a good thing. I'm glad it came to be. So I went and got mine right away. So.
As soon as was possible.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I was always gauging things based on school because they were optimistic in Christmas. They didn't actually tell us that we weren't going back until like a week before school was supposed to start again. So they were like, "Yep, we decided no, it's not happening." I was like, "Then why am I renting this apartment in Malibu?"
wow, that is expensive sounding.
Well, I went to school in that area, so I like to say I didn't live there by choice. But I think that was kind of how I gauged things. So once I found out that school wasn't going to be happening, I had very little hope for the convention scene going back to normal. And especially with, I think we already knew at that point that some weren't happening.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, same as you, I kind of thought like mid-21, maybe we would get things back going again. I didn't know like which specific convention would be the first to attempt to touch their toe into the water of getting things back to normal. But yeah, I think I gauged everything based on what was happening in my personal life, so I don't think I had any unreasonable hope that things were going to get back to normal faster than they actually are not. Although people are back in school now, so with safety in place. So
Before like Omicron got really bad, I feel like so many of the COVID scares or people I know that actually got COVID, like the Delta variant, it was all because of school. Because schools decided to start going back in person, and then all of a sudden there were all these COVID scares, even with like the vaccine. But
I think it depends too on what kind of regulations the schools put in place, because I know that some places were better about it than others. Like I knew a lot of people that were in a lot of different places, and regulations varied widely based on like a lot of things.
Yep.
So I was, kind of trying to apply those to what I thought would work for personal life, and I just couldn't see any way that it would have worked at that point in time. Like there were just too many variables to consider in having something like this, and we're lucky that we're even able to be here.
I think one of the things that I realized going into 2021 was that Virginia is usually, in Northern Virginia in particular, is usually seen as kind of a blue state. And, we've usually had Democratic governors for the last couple of years until recently. But I think what kind of showed up a lot in terms of anti-mask, mask, or anti-vax and vax was we had a lot of just areas, especially in more affluent areas of the state, where there were more people that were clamoring for, getting kids back in schools earlier. We had a lot more difficulties with, if anybody pays attention to the news, we had some issues in just one of our neighboring counties talking about critical race theory. And all these things started piling up more and more over the last year. And it's just, I think for me in particular, the last year was kind of an eye-opener and a wake-up call that oh yeah, there's a lot of people here that I don't agree with. And most of them have money and don't have to worry about the consequences of their actions. Whoops.
yeah.
But we bought a house, so that was nice.
Yeah, congrats.
Yeah. Seriously, I would say that we kind of were going back outside pretty quickly after people were supposed to come back in. We, in the state of Virginia, didn't really have a lot of there was really no shutdown or anything. After the first month, a lot of different businesses were opening back up, and we would just go drive, just stay in our cars, drive somewhere just to get out of the house, and then we just come back. And maybe during the first couple of weeks, it was so good. There was no traffic on the 95. Nothing was happening. You could just drive as fast as you wanted and then just come right back home. And then after like 3 weeks, it was back to normal. Like, it was annoying at one point, and then were just kind of like, look, housing market, it's either we buy now and get a really good interest rate. This is probably the lowest we've ever seen it. Or actually, I was considering getting engaged last year. And I was like, it's either this or it's the house. And we went for the house. So all throughout that last year, we were basically just going around looking at houses, which was surprisingly safe. Most of the houses were vacated. I think there was like one open house we went into, and that was it. But most of the places we were just looking in an empty house and judging it and then coming back. I mean, we went to 20 different houses. It was so nice that our realtor was just doing this as a hobby because we took him around pretty much most of Northern Virginia as we could. So yeah, it was a very interesting experience, especially as first-time home shoppers. And then yeah, by about September 2020, we became homeowners. And I think we already knew MAGFest wasn't going to happen at that point.
Yeah, I think so.
I was very hopeful that PAX East might happen, especially with the vaccines coming in. And then we didn't actually get our first dose until April last year.
Yeah, same.
Even if it had happened, I don't know how available vaccines would have been for everyone by that point, because I know I'm also from California, and we couldn't even get close to an appointment until like April.
Yeah, it sucked. And then like the closest thing, at least for me, it's like, oh, you want to get your vaccine? Drive 30 miles south.
Right.
And then I'd do it,
That's
and then I'd
exactly
grab
how it
ice
was.
cream, and then I'd go back.
We made an appointment, and then literally, I think it was hours after we made an appointment, our school was like, hey, we got some vaccines. Do you want them? And we were like, I just made an appointment. I waited forever for an appointment.
I was gonna ask,
Now you
like, if there
have
was any benefits for like being a student, like if you guys had
We
early
I
access.
think by the time they got them, we had actually, I forget if I think we had finished finals, but had not yet had our graduation ceremony for our first dose, if I remember correctly. So they just banked on people still being around, which we were, because we had to study for the bar. So we were still there. Yeah, that was the great thing about quarantine. I couldn't go anywhere. We had
No
choice.
excuse not to study.
We had literally no choice.
Could have played more Animal Crossing.
Oh, I did.
Well, I was naive. At the end of 2020, I was like, well, everything's going to lift in 2021, so let me start booking travel plans. So I was like, I really want to go back to Japan, especially since Super Nintendo World's going to open and everything. So I set plans for September 2021 to fly out and stay there for 2 weeks, and I got that nice hotel that's like right in front of the Universal Studios Park. So I walk out the hotel and I go straight to it, and it was in Osaka, beautiful, and it was going to be awesome. And as we started getting closer to September 2021, it started to become more evident that I wasn't going to be allowed to fly. And I got in a big fight with the airline because I paid for the travel insurance, and they kept saying you can't cancel for COVID-related reasons. And I had to tell them, I'm not canceling because I have COVID. I'm canceling because they have COVID. They will not let me fly to Japan.
Was
But
your
they-
airline Delta?
No, it was Japan Airlines, and they
It was bad.
refused to give me a full refund, even though I paid for the travel insurance and everything. So it's also really dumb because you can still buy a plane ticket to Japan right now, and you will not be allowed to board the plane, and they won't give you a refund. So it's really, really scummy. So I only got like 50% back in travel credit. I'm gonna go back to Japan at some point, or wherever else they travel to, Hawaii or Philippines or something.
Yeah.
And then I will hopefully set plans by 2025, whenever this virus goes away.
Well, I remember even ZU had problems because we usually do E3, and I think when they canceled E3 last year and made it virtual, 2020,
Yeah, 2 years.
it took us months to deal with the Airbnb because they would not refund us. And this is after Airbnb, the company went and said like, hey, for COVID related reasons, we'll help, do whatever we can. And then as soon as we were like, okay, we're cashing in, they're like, oh, no, we actually meant you to not do anything. Can you please just let us keep your money? And we spent maybe 9 months fighting them in order to get the money back on the Airbnb that we lost. Yeah, that just reminded me, like, a lot of different companies went and said, we're in this together. And then they went, no, my money.
Translation, we're not giving you your money.
Yeah.
It was the same thing for me. Like, thankfully, I didn't have any, like, I had, like, travel plans to go to Japan, but I didn't buy my ticket yet. But I did have concert tickets that I had bought. And, like, none of them, since they were all like, well, these concerts are postponed, not canceled, they weren't going to give anyone back their money. So.
Yeah, a lot of these places you call a place and they put you on hold hoping that you'll hang up out of frustration. But I think a lot of these places don't realize how stubborn someone like me can be.
It only strengthens
your wait
me.
time will be 2.5 hours, and I'll be like, try me, and I'll throw my phone on the desk and I'll play Animal Crossing or something until they finally pick up. And then, despite all of that, despite being, I think it was 6 different phone calls, and I was writing down names and writing down times and stuff, we'd be in the middle of a conversation and it would sound like they were typing stuff in so I could get my refund. And they just hang up on me. And then I'd call again, and I'd be like, I was speaking to this person. Can I get reconnected to them? And they'd say, oh, we're not in charge of that. And I go, oh, how incredibly convenient. No worries. We'll just start from the beginning again. Okay, we'll put you on hold for 2.5 hours. You know what? Try me. And I'd stay up till like 2 in the morning, and I'm like, I'm going to get my money back. I didn't get my money back.
Okay, yeah.
I got like half of it back in travel credit.
Right.
Oh, good. Yeah. We No, you don't understand. I will never use you again.
Don't book through Expedia.
.com.
Not sponsored.
Book directly through the airline. next time.
Definitely not
Definitely
sponsored.
not sponsored.
Nope. If they want to blacklist me,
Oh, completely unrelated story, but this reminds me. So we were at PAX East 2020. We were doing one of the panels, and I remember because I bought everybody Starbucks, and I came in, they were like, you're going to have to cover that up. And I was like, wait, what? And they go, yeah, we can't have any corporate sponsor like that aren't sponsored on here. And I was like, what?
but it's Starbucks. They're like the most famous.
They're in Game of Thrones.
So I think if you like watch the beginning part of that panel, we're all just like coloring in the green
Let
part.
me drink my generic brand
Yes.
coffee.
It's still so obvious.
Delicious.
Name coffee.
White coffee cup. Delicious. Totally
yeah.
different. Totally different. Yeah, it's Farbucks.
You should have drawn an Arbuck.
Yeah, Arbucks. Yeah, we are not. Yeah, we are not getting sued. So yeah, 2021 came and went. I was feeling a little bit more confident during the middle of 2021 that 2022 was going to be a lot better, because at that point, the numbers were going down, people were getting vaccinated. We actually went to Disney World in October.
And then you put a ring on it.
And then I put a ring on it. Yes. So actually, the one part that actually made me really nervous, and I took a video of it, was, so we went to Hollywood Studios, and the only reason why you go to Hollywood Studios anymore is to do Star Wars stuff. And we had to get there very early. We had to get there before the park opened in order to wait in that line for Rise of the Resistance for 2 hours. And I just take a video of the sea of people that are just like standing there. And I'm like, just letting you know, Disney World definitely imposes safety regulations. And they definitely impose, social distancing. Yeah. But like, I can see anybody from the other side of that looking at the sea of people being, they don't pay me enough. Disney does not pay me enough to actually say anything. So just get the hell in here and go to your stupid ride.
Disneyland actually shut down.
They did. Yeah, they did.
I live very close to Disneyland, and my sister actually went on the last day before they were like, all right, we're shutting it down. Like, everyone knew that it was the last day.
Yeah.
And she went and took videos inside, and it was empty.
That is so awesome.
Yeah,
if they ever needed to film something at Disneyland, that would be the time.
She sent videos of like the entrance area with like the castle and stuff, and it was just deserted. And I was like, I should have gone to Disneyland.
That would have been a great day to go.
I mean, they were all masked and everything, obviously.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it was crazy.
Yeah, I think that was like the most anxiety inducing part of it, but otherwise, we were feeling pretty confident going into the fall and winter months. We were even thinking about doing like holiday get-togethers, and then Omicron happened. And even we got sick. We got our boost, and then a week later I wound up getting COVID. The fiance wound up getting COVID, and we're doing okay, but it was definitely a slap to the ego. And it was definitely, I think, thinking about even MAGFest, when I signed up for everything in October, I was like pretty pumped. And I knew that some people probably still weren't going to be able to come, but I was feeling pretty confident that we'd all be in a good place. And this was supposed to be a more hopeful panel. Like, honestly speaking, when it was pitched, the whole idea was to be like, yeah, what are we looking forward to now that conventions are back? And I'm like, are we back though?
Yeah, then Omicron happened.
Yeah, I had a couple of other things happen. I had my car stolen. I had to get surgery done to my face. I had to move out of my apartment and move back in with my mom. I had to do a bunch of other health-related things. But I'm alive. Nothing stopped me.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful to say that nobody in my family, some of them got COVID, none of them died from it. So I'm in a more fortunate situation. And now I know what to do if your car ever gets stolen. So I'm more prepared for that too.
Have you ever gotten COVID?
No? Or I have been tested. I can't say too much about this. I was at a Hollywood production set a couple months back. So when you're there, they test you for COVID like every week. And all the times I got tested for COVID, I never had it. So, but that was back in like September, October. So for all I know, I could have had it since then. But I have had my vaccination booster, and
Right.
I'm only around my mom. And she went to a New Year's party, and the person in charge of the party had the rapid test, and she didn't have COVID when she was there. So if I've only been around my mom and she didn't have COVID, I feel pretty good about me not having COVID. But for all I know, when I was at the airport 2-3 days ago, I probably caught it there and don't feel any of the symptoms yet. So we'll see. It's fine here.
No.
All the way over here for
It
you.
feels like the world is trying to kill you except for COVID.
Well, it's doing a pretty terrible job, and I'm glad that I'm making it through. But I hope I'm not jinxing anything.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, we're gonna have this again next year. You're gonna have like an eye patch and like,
Cast.
yeah,
Oh,
just
yeah, so-
everything. But I didn't get COVID, so
No, Liz.
Yeah, when I had surgery on my face, I had a cyst growing out the side of my face. It was swelling up and it looked gross. And so I had a plastic surgeon cut it off. But then when that happened, I had a big old bandage covering up the side of my face. So I drew a smiley face on it, so that anytime I looked in a mirror, I could make myself laugh. And it worked because I forgot that I drew the smiley face on it most of the time. So I did that. And then I got to keep the cyst that he cut off. So when you were asking about
Oh my
the other
God.
thing, did you get to see the chicken nugget they removed? I didn't get that, but I got
You
to
got the cyst.
I got the cyst.
it looks like a chicken nugget that's been stuck in someone's throat for a week.
No,
Aw.
Nope.
I tried to show it to my sisters and they were grossed out. So it was good.
This was almost your brother.
Ew. I feel like everyone, like, unanimously is like, oh, 2020 sucked, right?
Yeah.
But we were all in it, like, together. And it was, like, a very weirdly comforting thing that literally everyone in the world was going through the same thing at the same time. Like, did anyone else feel that way at all?
That's what helped
For
me
like
get
a
through it,
minute.
Yeah.
was knowing that we were in a way all in it together. Yeah.
Yeah, like, that really helped me get through, like, the beginning and the peaks of quarantine, where it was like a very legitimate quarantine. Like, I was living with my mom and she was working at hospital, so like I just lived with anxiety every single day, and I was like home alone until I got a puppy. And even though 2020 sucked, I feel like weirdly enough 2021 just personally was like a worse year for me. But I'm feeling very hopeful for 2022 despite Omicron. Like, I think it's gonna be a good year. I'm happy to be back at MAGFest after 2 years. Like, this is already an amazing start to this year. So I'm feeling hopeful.
Yeah, did anybody else go anywhere? How are y'all feeling about 2021, or how are y'all feeling about 2022?
21 was just not a good year for me. I was lonely as hell, to be honest. And this guy came to visit me, and that was really cool. And then later in the year, I went to visit him, and he encouraged me to see a doctor, which I needed to do for many reasons. So things have been steadily improving since then. So this is definitely looking to be a better year. One other thing.
Oh yeah.
Isn't Omicron the final boss of Final Fantasy IX?
He was a surprise, yeah.
That's okay.
And that's before you or after you fight God. Yeah, I mean, oh, yeah. I guess like I was trying to feel a little bit hopeful, and things were looking up. I'm hoping that things will start to. I think it's mostly just the winter weather. That's obviously going to enhance flu season, and COVID will obviously be a part of that. And I do, unfortunately, believe that COVID will probably continue to be a part of our lives for a very long time. Now, how does that factor into how we live our lives? I don't know. But I mean, ultimately, I think I can only hope that whatever transmutations that COVID takes, because it seems like Omicron is a variant that's much more transmissible, but hasn't been as disastrous.
Yeah.
And as more and more people get vaccinated, my hope is that it will probably become weaker and weaker over time. But I can't speak for what happens after people get COVID. There are times where, I mean, there was one day where I just walked up the steps and I was winded. Like it was, that was probably the worst of it, fortunately. Like I never had a fever. I never lost my sense of taste or smell. Technically, I have like a reduced sense of smell anyway, because I had some stuff taken out of my nose like 10 years ago. But yeah, I'm feeling a little bit more hopeful about 2022, especially thinking about how the weather's going to hopefully starting to get warmer. Certainly not today. My pinky froze just walking into the convention center, and I was holding the coffee that was hot.
Well, that's why you have two pinkies, right?
Yes, to fix the other one.
Yeah.
Who needs it? Yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic. I see somebody in our chat, but cautiously optimistic is the route that I'm taking. I bought my PAX East tickets. Yeah, I bought my PAX East ticket. When the panel applications open up, I'll be signing up for Zelda Universe there, and hopefully we'll have a presence there this time. Unfortunately, it didn't work out this week, but we'll probably be there next year. What do you guys think you've missed over the last 2 years, and what are you looking forward to now that hopefully we're starting to get back to some kind of new normal?
You guys? I miss chatting with everybody. I walk around conventions with a big old Yoshi hat, and I like seeing people, because the whole point of me going to a convention with the Yoshi hat on was to stand out. So when that gets taken away, I don't really have a major event to look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
And 2020 kind of sucked because I didn't really have anything to look forward to. All the Marvel shows got delayed to 2021. Nintendo's the big gaming company I look at, and they were mostly silent. So I was like, this just sucks. I don't like, I'm going to keep working, but I've got like nothing to drive toward. And then 2021 was an improvement because, well, the Marvel shows came out, and Nintendo was releasing stuff pretty regularly again. And then events started to pop up and then shut down. Like I went to PAX West 2021, and it was like, okay, but I feel bad if that was anyone's first event, because like, if this is someone's first MAGFest, I kind of feel bad because this isn't normal. We're all trying to feel that sense of normalcy. So I just missed being able to do stuff, and I tried what I could. Like I like auditioned for game shows, and I made it onto one of them, and then we tried to like book concerts and stuff, and it didn't really work out, and I just wanted to do what I could without engaging in too many social activities. So I missed people.
Yeah.
So that's about it.
Well, and I spent a lot more time trying to do this podcast over the last year. Like I tried to actually make it a legit podcast that you can listen to in your car if you decide to just go for a drive. But also I tried to reach out to new people, and I think everyone here, for the most part, has been on the show at some point now. And like it was nice having you on. You reached out to me.
Yeah, I saw your stuff. I saw you're interviewing a lot of the people I knew, and I was like, hey, can I join your show? And you were like, sure.
Yeah, I was like, you know the show?
With all due fairness, one of the benefits of playing Animal Crossing in 2020 was that everyone was playing Animal Crossing, so I got in contact with a lot of people that I hadn't spoken to in several years.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, hey, person I haven't spoken to in 7 years, I see that you are playing the latest Animal Crossing game. Would you like to play sometime? And then from that, I kind of expanded my web of people, and then eventually I came across you. And I was like, hey, you know a lot of the same people I do. We should be friends. And that's what happened.
Yeah.
So it all boiled down to Animal Crossing, is what you're saying.
A lot
Yeah.
of things root back to Animal Crossing, yeah, I would say so. When in doubt, there is Animal Crossing.
And it's been great being able to meet up with. It's surprising how I've been able to, and I've been very lucky to make new friends over the last 2 years, even though it's been physically impossible to do so. So being able to talk and reach out to y'all, and I've been a part of like different streams for Mario Party. Thank God for Mario Party last year. That was my big thing over the past year.
God did not give the smart party.
No, Miyamoto did. So yeah, it's been great. I would like to do that more. I think that's like the one thing is that while I was making new friends, I feel like I've not been very good at keeping up with the old. So I think that's going into 2022. That's something that I would like to try to improve on. And that's something that I'm looking forward to, especially if, conventions do come back this year. So I think that's a big thing for me.
Yeah, I definitely really vibe with that because after I graduated and had to start studying for the bar, I basically dropped off the face of the earth for 3 months because I was just spending all of my time studying for the bar. And so now that that's done and I don't have to worry about it anymore, I can finally start getting back into things I love. So that's why I would almost say that not that 2021 was a worse year than 2020 for me, but that I felt like it wasn't as fulfilling on one half of my life, but super fulfilling on the other half of my life. So it was kind of like a real mixed bag. And so now 2022, I'm looking forward to everything evening out, and I don't have to stress about school anymore. It feels so weird not to have to rush back on Monday to go to class at 8 a.m. I am free. So
It's such a good feeling.
it feels
Oh,
really
yeah.
good. I mean, that I'm able to just go yeah, I'm not coming into work on Monday. I can't be I'm not going to my 8 a.m. criminal law class on Monday because my professor would be like, cool, write something on it.
What do you mean?
I'm like,
Uh-uh.
But that's what I'm looking forward to 2022 for that reason. And I think it's great that we love what we do because in that way we don't have to see people in order to continue to make content and have fun. We are in a unique space where we can do it without necessarily being face to face. Of course, it's great to be face to face, but it doesn't have to happen. And I think that's why we're special.
Tim, how about you?
I am in total agreement.
Perfect.
Of course.
I concur.
Cool. Thanks.
Like you guys said exactly what I was thinking, though.
Yeah. So I think that unless we got any additional, does anybody want to share any additional stories of what we've been up to the last year? Is there any other near-death experiences you'd like to share?
That I'd like to share?
That's fair. That's fair.
The car getting stolen thing. Yeah, I just went outside one day and the car wasn't there anymore. And I second guessed myself and I was like, oh, boy, no, stupid Bradley. You parked the car in the back. And I start walking toward the back and I'm like, wait, no, I parked it in the front. And then I grab my car keys and hit the little the horn button, and I wasn't hearing anything. So I called my mom. Oh, this was Thanksgiving week. So my mom had gone up north to.
This was recent.
This was 2020. Thanksgiving 2020. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Thanksgiving 2020. So my mom went up to visit my grandma. I chose to stay home because I didn't want to potentially give anybody COVID. So I called my mom and I said, "Hey, I can't find my car." And she's like, "You can't find your car?" And I said, "Yeah, what do I do when that happens?" And she goes, "You need to file a missing car report." I said, "Okay." And she's like, "Where were you trying to go?" And I said, "I was just grabbing lunch. I can order a pizza or something." She's like, "Okay, yeah, file a missing car report." So I did. And, 2-3 weeks go by and I don't hear anything until I get a random phone call from the police department. And the guy kind of sounds excited over the phone. And he's like, "Hey, we found your car. It's being taken over to a tow yard right now. Here's the address." And then I had to pay $300 to the tow yard. That's okay. Insurance covered it, though. And then I got the car, and the entire inside of it was trashed. Like, whoever stole my car was living out of it. And there were nuts and bolts all over the ground. Like, you couldn't even see the carpet of the car anymore. There were just so many nuts and bolts. He was eating croissants, but would get like halfway through them and then put them back inside of a plastic bin. And there were also 3 TVs in the car. And I considered hanging on to one of them and selling it, but then I was like, do I really want to deal with that? So I said no, so I threw them away. And so I took the car over to a family friend's house and we cleaned it out. And inside the car, I kid you not, was someone took like a beanie and cut holes out of it for eyes. So whoever stole my car had the nerve to wear that while prying the doors open of my car and hijacking it. Which, by the way, he stole the car because I drive a Kia Soul. And I didn't know this until the car got stolen, that the Kia Soul is like one of the most stolen cars ever.
Oh.
And why? Are they easy to break into?
Apparently. Because when I went to
boxy look.
Because when I went to pick up my car at the lot, there were like 4 other Kia Souls there.
Wow.
Yeah, he had a way to pry the lock on the car open, and then he had a way to start the ignition.
Wow.
So everything was effed up, and then I had to take my car over to the shop and have them fix everything. And thankfully they did, and thankfully the insurance covered it. But just like, it's just weird. It was more a feeling of violation than anything else.
Yeah.
I was like trying to give the benefit of the doubt. Like, maybe it was a college student that was down on his luck, or maybe someone was desperate, and it was some random guy I'd never heard of before, and he tried to plea that we gave him permission to use the car. And it's like, even if I did, that's not permission to live out of it and have 3 broken TVs and a bunch of nuts and bolts all over the ground and half-eaten croissants. And the nerve to change all of my radio stations to Spanish-speaking stations was so unusual. Because usually I just turn the car on and I have it connect to my phone, and it's not connected to my phone because I haven't driven in a couple of days. And so I turn the radio on, and I can't understand it because it's not in English. So I had to change all my stations back, and that took some time, and that was a little weird.
That was the biggest inconvenience.
That was the biggest insult to whoever took my car, was changing my music preferences.
You don't change the stations.
Don't change my music.
You don't mess with
I am
someone's
very,
music.
Can't change my tunes.
very controlled by the music I listen to.
I need my news radio.
I need to listen to Rick Dees in the morning all the time.
Well, on that note, it is noon. Oh,
Sorry.
nice.
That was
You're good. But I believe we need to wrap things up. So thank you all for being here. Let's go around the table and see where we can find you and what y'all are up to in the future. Let's start with Bradley.
Hi, my name is Yoshiller. My Twitter handle is real Yoshiller because someone else took Yoshiller, so I'm not allowed to take it back.
And also changed the tunes on that one too.
They changed. Otherwise, yeah, if you look up Yoshiller and you see a guy with a Yoshi hat, it is most likely me. So, thank you, everybody.
Oh yeah, my favorite thing is Google any convention and just look at pictures of that convention and spot him.
Yeah,
You will find him.
people play Where's Waldo with me. It makes me so gleeful to pull up my Twitter and people are like, there's Yoshiller again in the background of this E3 interview, and I'm like, hey, that is me. Cool.
Looking for footage, I find him all the time. Shin, how about you?
You can find me on Twitter, YouTube, everything at Shinjanaytor. I've got a podcast. I've got several podcasts. I got really into podcasting too in quarantine. If you just find my socials, you'll see everything there.
And how about you?
We asked, but Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, AceFangirl. That's it.
There you go. Twitch and YouTube, NintendoCapriSun, of course. Twitter is _CapriSun. Reddit is NintendoCapriSun with a 5 instead of the capital S. And I'm also 1/3 of the Runaway Guys, along with this here person and another Canadian who couldn't be here today. So, if you're watching, howdy.
And you can find me on Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter under the same name, LaughingboyLP. I do, if you're new to this whole thing, I do DialogBOX, which is a panel-based podcast. I also do interviews. I've interviewed you. I've interviewed that guy over there as well. I will eventually get to a bunch more people in the future, one of these days. But yeah, you can find me on all those areas. Please follow, like, comment and all that. Hopefully this will probably be on the channel in the future. I'll probably steal it from the MAGFest guys.
Wave to the camera.
Yeah, wave to the camera before I steal my footage. And we'll see you guys in the next time. Good night.
It's 12 p.m.
It is noon. Who knows when this goes up? I don't care. Goodbye, everybody.